Ready?
Oh, I knew I, mate. I was born ready.
Evening, Ben. How are you?
Living the dream, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Not too bad. This is the first of our regular calls. So, anyone watching this, just to let you know, this is a regular feature we're going to be doing with a number of agents around the UK that are part of eXp. A warts and all documentary style video call with various agents from around the country to find out um, everything really, their experience with the XP, how they found building their business and generating leads, selling houses, and all that other stuff. So Ben Moore is the latest agent to take part. I'm going to be doing this regularly. Ben is the one with the beard. I'm sure you've seen him on social media. But Ben, do you want to give us a quick intro? We won't do this every time, but just a quick intro on your background, where you've come from, why you joined the XP, and just some bits and pieces around that.
Absolutely, mate. Well, thanks for making time to have a chat with me this evening. It's good to see you again. But yeah, my name's Ben. Like Adam said, the one with the beard is what I plaster all over my LinkedIn and all my social media channels and whatnot. So as you can probably see if you're watching and not listening, I've got a big, stupid, ridiculously crazy novelty beard. But I'm an estate agent of about 10 years. I've been self-employed for most of that journey, to be honest with you. I started out in the corporate world for a few years and worked my way up. Before sort of making a transition quite early on to go self-employed and launch my first estate agency. To fast forward and sort of give you a brief overview of where I've been at, I sort of founded and launched 2 estate agents from the ground up, sort of launched them in my bedroom, scaled quite quickly and ended up exiting both of those businesses. I then, a most recent venture, I then sold my business to move to the sunny Fylde Coast, which is where I'm based, and that's my primary territory at the moment. And I launched my business for the first time about 12 months before eXp came onto the scene here in the UK. Now, when I launched my business the first time around, obviously I had all the experience, knew all my figures and everything from the previous 2 times of launching a business. And I did it on a bit of a tight budget, and I knew we could make it work if the kind of stars aligned and it all went well and we got the early listings and the early sales. And we got off to a great start, in truth, with our listings. The business went, it grew quite quickly in terms of the front end. We hit a few sales, but I made that mistake of kind of dropping my fees lower than what I should to get the early instructions. And essentially the budget started getting eaten up really, really quickly from the obvious overheads, your rent moves, your supers, the spend that I was putting into lead generation and so forth. So quite quickly, although we was getting a couple of completions coming through, it wasn't washing the face of the business. So I had to kind of put those plans on pause. And then I had a little period of time where I kind of sat around twiddling my thumbs and wondering what the next step was going to be. When you popped up in my inbox and we had a chat about eXp, and obviously I started doing my research in terms of the background of the company and what you was looking to achieve here in the UK, it ticked on my boxes. And the way that I saw it at that stage, Adam, was that collaborating with eXp essentially would put me back on the same saddle that I fell off 12 months prior, put me back in the same position. I'd be able to run my business my way at fees that I set in the market that I choose, and essentially just run forward as I was before, but without all the associated overheads, which obviously brought me to a premature end in the first time around. So that was why I started off with eXp, to be completely frank. It was just to kind of put myself back in the space that I was before. And we kicked off in, I think it was early October, was it? First week of October was when we went live. So yeah, and I've been hustling it out ever since. I've been working hard, as you know, putting in the long evenings. I've been on your case at ridiculous times of the evening, asking you questions and all that sort of fun stuff. And yeah, we've had a decent start looking back. I've really enjoyed the journey so far, I think it's fair to say.
Good, and that's really what these videos are for, and it's partly for me to help you if you've got questions and challenges. It's part of the reason we try and connect on a regular basis, and we try and do that with as many agents as possible. Obviously these ones are recorded really for the wider audience, as I say, a warts and all journey. So talking of warts and all, started in October, what's been the biggest challenge, the biggest success? I guess we'll start off with the challenge first, because that's always the bit that people want to know, is what was hardest, I guess.
Sure. Well, essentially the market that I'm working in, it's not a market that I've operated for any length of time as an agent. So I'm not really known to local vendors. I've not got a big backlog of data and people that I could have been connecting with. So for me, I really did go from a cold start in the market. And I mentioned earlier on in the intro that I did the same thing 12 months prior, and we built our stock levels up quite quickly. This time around, for whatever reason, I found it a bit tougher. I think it might be because of all that was going on with Brexit and things like that. As we all know, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market throughout 2019, which does seem to be shifting a bit now, touch wood. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle initially to get off the ground. I kind of tell a lie, really. In the first couple of weeks, we got off to a good start. We sort of got some low-hanging fruit quite early, and I thought it was great. And I was, high-fiving everyone and thinking it was the best thing since sliced bread, and I was about to be an overnight millionaire. But of course, it started to slow down, and then we went through a bit of a turbulent time where, I'll be honest, it was really quiet. And I was kind of focusing all my attention on Facebook and doing all that I could to generate leads and connect with customers and start building the business in the way that you'd expect. But it didn't catch fire straight away. It was a little bit slow. I had to put a lot of graft in, and I always use this analogy. So sorry for anyone who watches my videos on LinkedIn, but I always use the phrase, if it's about sowing seeds and then looking after those seeds, coming back to water them, and then sort of reaping the fruits of the crop later on. So I'd say from sort of maybe late October, I started to take stock of exactly what my strategy was. I started to outline the processes in terms of what I needed to be doing day to day, week to week, month to month, in order to grow the business over time. I think you had a big part to play in that, if I'm going to be totally honest, Adam, because as you know, being from the generation that I am, I'm all about social media. I'm all about putting my eggs in the Facebook basket. And for me, I was very blinkered towards a Facebook strategy. And whilst Facebook has definitely got, it's good points, you can get a decent cost per lead, you can grow your business very efficiently by utilizing those platforms. I wasn't taking advantage of other strategies like the touting, the direct mail, and things like that. Just because I've never really done that before myself, and I didn't really see the value in it because of that. And obviously you convinced me to give it a go, to try it, because essentially vendors that are on the market are people with their hands up in the air saying, hey, I'm trying to sell and I've still not sold. Yeah. So I looked at it and kind of thought, well, there's no, hotter prospect than someone who's currently in that position trying to sell and having no success. So I put a lot of thought into the content of my letters and how I was going to approach it. And then we kicked off with direct mail sort of late October, early November. And that's been a sort of cornerstone of our strategy since, and that's been a big sort of contributor to our success, I think is fair to say.
And I remember that conversation, and I'm glad to have been useful for one thing at least anyway. So, but yeah, I've always said that those home sellers are literally holding their hands up. There's no other business industry in the world where that the customer wants or needs your service. If they haven't sold their house and they're on the market, they need your service. So you should be approaching them in the most professional way possible, without a shadow of a doubt. But you should be approaching them. There's no reason not to. And Chris Watkin always says to me, not always, but he said to me, it's hunting and farming. You have to be hunting, but you also have to be farming. And I think there has to be a perfect mix of that. And the content that you do, and blowing smoke up, but the content you do is that's the farming bit, and that's the really impressive part. That it's a longer burn for me, and it will probably take 6 to 9 months for that to wash through, in my opinion. The hunting is where you go in for the kill, for the lower hanging fruit, like you say, and so those properties for sale is a big part of it. So, but this isn't about me; it's about you. So.
That's the Adam Day show. I'm joking. It's the Ben Moore show. Get off the screen.
So give us some figures. How many instructions have you done? How many did you do in October, November, December, January? Be honest, if you want to be. But how many have you done?
Sure. So October, like I say, we got off to a decent enough start. I had a right touch actually off the go. So we secured the sale of the instruction, should I say, a large new build development over in Manchester. So that's sort of all off plan. It's being built as we speak. The first phase is due to complete towards the end of this year. So they're making good progress, but it's still a building site. But anyway, we connected with the developers over there and we got authority to market 585 units. But I'm not classing those as 585 instructions. I'm just classing that as one instruction.
I would.
But yeah, might skew the figures slightly. It makes November and December look tragic if that's the case. But no, we got obviously that contract, which was great, and we're still getting a lot of calls on that now. So I'm hopeful that we'll scoop some decent commission from that site. I took on an investment property, and I'm just trying to think. I got an instruction close towards the end of October or early November.
There was a flat, wasn't there? Was a flat, wasn't there, that you took on in end of October? So
A
three
flat,
three instructions in month one, would you say?
3 instructions in month
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And that was with that quiet phase in between. The flat was kind of really at the end. And that was subsequently our first sale as well, but I'll get onto that. Like I say, it's sort of the end of October, early November, we started going heavy on direct mail. It took a little bit of refining, I'll be honest, because I think there's always that temptation when you're doing direct mail and you're putting your message, I guess, in front of someone who you really want to respond. It's very, very, very tempting. Even now, you just want to plaster all over it how great you are and how much you care and how you're the best thing since sliced bread, and how you'll get it sold and how your valuations are free and all this sort of stuff that we all say, which just becomes white noise to the seller. So I've been really trying to control myself in terms of the content that I put into those letters and try and lead with value slightly. So it's took a bit of tweaking as time's gone on, and I think that the products that we're putting out there now in terms of the content of those letters are about as good as they ever have been, but hopefully not as good as maybe what they will be in 2 or 3 months' time. It's just constantly tweaking things and seeing what formula works best with which type of vendors. So we started doing that sort of late October, early November, and yeah, we just started to sort of reap the fruits of that labour as the month went on. We closed out on Boxing Day, so towards the end of last year we closed out on 10 instructions. I think we got double figures on Boxing Day. I remember posting something about that on the eXp workplace. So that for me was a decent start, really, to get to double figure listings. We got our first sale done.
Yeah,
Early
especially in November and December. I mean, hats off to you and everyone else who started in September, October. It's a tough time to start. You got October, and then the market dies. Especially with Brexit and all the other stuff that was going on. Tough thing to do, but well done on that. So how's it been going this year so far? 2020 so far? How are we getting on?
Good. Well, so what's basically been going on this year is towards the end of December, over the New Year period. Again, this just shows you the importance of being consistent with your actions. And you're right in terms of your content marketing, your videos and whatnot. You need to be persistent with that to have any impact over time. But the same can be said of everything. You direct lead generation campaigns through Facebook, you direct mail, certainly. And we took our foot off the gas over that period with direct mail because I was just sat at home eating mince pies and talking to the missus about how great my business was. And then coming into January, that started to really show. So again, we had a quiet period towards the start of the year, but I quickly got back in the saddle, and we've been going back to basics, and it's starting to really pick up again now. So I got an instruction 3 days ago, which was a £5,000 fee, which is quite good for our market. I took on an instruction yesterday, a slightly lower value property, but priced really well. I'm confident that's going to sell. We've got verbal instruction for a property that we're going to do a take on on Monday. Again, it's a £300,000 house, so based on the percentages we're working to at the moment, that'll be a pretty sound fee as well. And I'm finding, and hopefully this isn't a short-lived thing, but I'm starting to find now that because of I believe the content that we're putting out, the sharp videos, the property tours, we're starting to bring higher, what's the word I'm looking for? So higher value properties, and the clients that we actually want to work with are starting to come into our ecosystem. So for me, that's the start of really truly building the business that I want to sort of run hell for leather with as 2020 unfolds. So yeah, it's all going really well. No complaints. We've sold 3 houses over the last 7 days. So that's really good as well to start to see those. I guess that's kind of Brexit dying off and confidence sort of reinstated in the market. Definitely seeing an uplift in buyer inquiries and busy viewings, and obviously offers as well. So that pipeline's starting to build nicely, which is what it's all about, right? We're not here for a laugh. We're here to earn money.
yeah, exactly. I think I always say to people, budget 6 months. It sounds like that's probably what you've got a budget for, probably 5 months. I reckon month 5. If you think of October, November, December, January, February, end of February, early March, you might get your first completion in.
Definitely. Well, our first completion was due to drop in January, actually, but I won't bore everyone with the details, but there was a few complications, as sometimes happens. It was a management pack issue, but that delayed things basically, or else that would have come in January. But you're right. I think if you said 6 months, I think that should give people enough time to build a business and start seeing some money drop into the bank.
And a common question I get when people are looking at eXp as a model to join is, how much do you need to start up? And I'm not asking you to reveal how much you've needed to start up, but people are worried that it's 25, 30, 35, 40,000 pounds, and I you know, I don't think it's that quite that much. I mean, where again, you don't have to tell us how much, but is it around that level, a bit less, you know,
Oh
tiny
mate,
amount?
Jesus, for me, mate, nowhere near. I wish I had that sort of money. I'd be absolutely Don Juan. I'd be killing the property scene UK wide if I had £30,000 behind me for lead generation. Nowhere near that for me, Adam. But you're right. I get asked that same question a lot by agents, and I don't really like answering it because I'm probably the worst person to answer that question because I just roll the dice. And if something sounds good to me, I just think I'm going to make it work. I'm going to seize it, and I'll worry about the technicalities later. And that's exactly what happened when the eXp proposition landed on my lap. So I launched with, I don't mind saying, about 3K. So
Wow.
not much
Okay.
at all, but I need to make it very clear that we've, even still today, because we're still waiting for the pipeline to build, it's been a very frugal few months. I've got children, I've got a mortgage to pay. My partner, she graduated uni last year and she started in a job that she loves, but she started out at the bottom, so she's not bringing in tons of money either. So we're trying to sort of put all of everything that we've got in one pot, and bless her, she's really supporting me and making this whole journey possible. I'll break down in terms of what we do. We're very frugal with our marketing, so we don't outsource our direct mail. I do everything myself by hand to save on the cost of stamps. Basically, all my letters, and this is going to sound crazy, but all my letters are black and white. We don't do, fancy, colourful sort of letterheads and things because I want to keep the cost of my coloured ink as low as possible. So I'm literally doing everything that I can to keep my spend as lean as possible. We spend roughly £150-ish on lead generation through Facebook each month, which again, is bearing fruit. So we're just doing whatever we can to be as intelligent and box as clever as we can with our lead generation. And so far it's working really well because I know people who've spent, not necessarily in eXp, but I know people generically in the business world who've spent 25, 30, 35K and haven't got close to 10 listings. So I think that where there's a will, there's a way, as long as you're intelligent about it, as long as you're persistent in your actions and, you're targeting the right people at the right time with the right message. I think there's a huge opportunity here. And obviously for anyone who does come into eXp, we're like one big family. So I'm more than happy to kind of help wherever I can and share my experiences and what has and hasn't worked for me over the last few months.
Yeah. Yeah, you and a whole bunch of others are the pioneers. So you're the guinea pigs. Really, it's a new business model, right, for the UK. It's not been done before. So you are the guinea pigs. So hats off to you for that as well. In terms of last real point from me, have you got targets and what do you? And this is sort of to in a way to hold us both accountable because as we do these videos. And as we push them out there, I think it would be good for us to be consistent with what we're telling anyone who's watching these videos. And if you're sitting there saying, "I'm going to do 20 instructions a month by July or August or something," and people can then look back on that video and say, "Well, yeah, Ben said that. That's what he was going to do, and he's actually done it." And so I think sometimes with these models, people don't believe that. They think there's just a few success stories and everyone else fails. And obviously, I don't think that's the case. I think we've got some really good bunch of agents. We only allow experienced agents to join. So it'd be good to pin your colours to a mast in terms of how many. This is risky, though. I'll tell you what, it's risky. What do you reckon? Have you got targets? You got numbers, figures that you want to be doing in the next, quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters?
Yeah, so probably a quite disappointing answer. I think it's horses for courses first off. So if someone does want that model where they want to, get market share and they want to get a board in every road and they want to work with everyone, then that's great. That's a valid business model, and I'm sure you can make it work with the right sort of setup and a bit of thought. For me, that's not my business. That's not what I want to create. So I've been there. I've done that. With my first 2 businesses, the plan was world domination. It was as simple as that. I wanted to deal with as many customers as I can and get my brand out there to as many people as possible. Don't know if it's old age. I turned 30 last year and I've got kids now and I've got a dog and a mortgage and a missus, and I value my free time more than I once did. So for me, what I'm looking for is a small, manageable, exclusive portfolio. I call myself a bespoke estate agent, and to me, bespoke means being able to offer, a truly amazing hands-on service to every customer that passes through my business. I want to give them the best marketing, the best content. I want to give them the best service, and I want to perform. So for me, my magic number is to get my portfolio to around 20 units, live units. So I don't think that's a big ask, especially with how we're tracking so far. I want that to be 20 units of the right clients who I enjoy working with, who I'm not going to dread picking up the phone to. I want that to be 20 units of the right properties that are going to give me the right content. I want that to be 20 units of the right properties that are paying the right fees. And I'm sure that based on me turning over 15 to 20% of my portfolio in sales each month, that's going to very quickly get exciting. Based on the fact that I get to retain 70% of my commission, that's going to give me the financial income that I want to be able to support my family and to achieve my personal goals and move up the property ladder and so on and so forth, while still affording me enough time to spend time with my family and do weekends in the Lake District and things like that. So for me, Adam, I want to earn what I want to earn. I want to be known for my reputation, not my market share. And I want to make sure that I've got enough free time to enjoy it and spend it with the people who really matter. So my goal is 20 live units. That's where I want to get to.
Okay, good. That's a great goal, and I think that's, you know, the current self-employed models, and this is why I find eXp so exciting. I think why you do and lots of other people do is, you know, the current self-employed models impose the fee on you to charge, and I know you've worked in one of those before. And that's where this you know, so therefore you have to do a certain volume of, you know, properties to earn any money, and therefore your time disappears and you can't spend that time with your family. So if you're very smart about it, which you sound like you're being, you can have a very manageable business, which gives you a very healthy income and gives you time to spend with your family, which
100%.
You know, can't buy time.
I tell you now, this isn't me just saying it. Anyone who's listening or watching this right now who's within one of the other well-known self-employed models, they'll know that even on a good month, if they're bagging whatever a good month is to them, 4, 5, 6, 7 grand, they are selling their soul for that money. They have literally not got a spare second of a single day in a single week of a single month. You literally exchange your life for a reasonable commission. And I'd argue, because even when I was in that space myself and I got to the end of the month and thought, oh, I've earned a few quid there, that's nice. If I rack up all the time that I've spent doing viewings, taking calls, responding to emails at the 11th hour, doing take-ons, my admin, managing staff, all the rest of it, if I would add up those hours, deduct my fuel cost and my expenses, I might as well have just gone and stacked shelves for minimum wage for an equivalent amount of time, and I probably would have come off better off at the end of the month, if that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas now I can earn those sorts of figures and more, may I add, for doing nowhere near as much labor, because you know, there's a million ways to make 100 grand, right? You can do 100 customers at £1,000 each. You can do 10 at 10 grand each. So this model gives you the chance to skin the cat how you see fit, in accordance with your goals in business and you know, what you want to achieve from it. And that's exactly what we're doing now. And it's exciting for me to see everything start to take shape. We've got a proper little business now. We've got a portfolio with real clients. The phone rings of real customers. I go to do real viewings. You know, it's not a dream anymore. It's not something that I want to do. It's now here and it's happening. And to see those sales coming in and that pipeline paying out, you know, it's brilliant. So but
it's not been easy, is it? You know, it's not easy. It's not a walk in the park. It's not, you know, wake up one morning, decide to become a self-employed agent, and the instructions just fall on your lap.
Oh mate, no, absolutely not. And that's the thing. And I don't mind saying, I've had some conversations with some agents myself, Adam, some of which I've told you about, some of which I've not, from people from the other self-employed models. And as we all know, in that world, you can go to bed on a Friday night and wake up on a Saturday morning, you've got 3 new valuations just magically appeared in your diary. Yeah. That's not the case, and that's not the real world. Once you're on your own 2 feet, there are tons of benefits, but let me make it clear, you better be ready to work for it. You know, you better be ready to roll your sleeves up and to do the graft. And like Chris always says, you know, do the farming, do the hunting, do whatever's necessary to get those instructions. And I learned that quite quickly, and I've been busy ever since trying to sow those seeds. And thankfully now we seem to be getting somewhere. Touch wood.
Touch wood, yeah, exactly. So yeah, good. Been great speaking to you. As I say, it's really initial one was a bit of a review of the last 3-4 months since you've been with eXp. As I've said, and I will say to every agent, we love having you part of the team, and you know, but you are the star of the show. It's about the agent for us. It's not about eXp. You know, the agent is the important person, and they're the people that build their businesses. But you know, and myself and Olivia and Tori are just the support act. So we'll be doing this regularly. We're going to be sort of not holding you to account, but we'll be talking about trials, tribulations, frustrations, successes, good news, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Over the next few videos, they'll probably be a bit shorter than this one, but this was really an intro one. So thank you very much, Ben. I'm off to have some dinner and obviously watch Love Island, of course.
Typical Adam there. Can't keep you
I'm not
away from
really.
the
I'm not
world.
really. That's not. Let's make that clear. Not really.
Hey, whatever you do when that camera's off, mate, is down to you and Mrs. Day. I'm not here to judge.
All right, Ben. Good man. I'll
Awesome,
speak to you
mate.
soon.
Thanks for your time, Adam. We appreciate that. All the best,
Bye.
mate. Bye-bye.
See ya.